In section 5.1a, we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. And our definition of slope-intercept form is an equation. So the slope-intercept form of a linear equation is y equals mx plus b. And in this equation, we have our b is our y-intercept. So remember, in our last 9 weeks, we talked about finding the y-intercept, and our y-intercept is a point on our line where x is 0, and our y-intercept is some number, and that number is going to be what's represented by b. So if our graph crossed our y-intercept at 4, our b would be 4. If it crossed at -2, our b would be -2. Our m is our slope. So again, we talked about finding slope in the last 9 weeks, and if we looked at our graph and found that our slope was 2, instead of writing m here, we would write a 2. And then the important thing here is that our equation is solved for y. So y is by itself. It is solved for y. Okay, but this is what our y-intercept equation looks like. Or sorry, our slope-intercept equation looks like. So the first step here is just identifying which one of these equations are written in slope-intercept form. So which one are solved for y and have that mx plus b form. So it's going to be some number times x plus a number. So here, number 1, it is solved for y, so y is by itself. That's a good first sign. Then we have a number here, 3x, where that 3 is our m, it's our slope. And this 4, this number added on the end, is our b, that's our y-intercept. So number 1 is yes, it is in that y equals mx plus b form. Number 2 here, right away, it's not solved for y. Y is not by itself, so that one is no. Number 3 is a tricky one because it looks like it's not in that form because it has no x. But if I were to write it like this, y equals 0x minus 4, this is equal to that same thing because 0 times x is 0. So that just gives me y equals -4. But this right here tells me my m is 0 and my y-intercept, my b, is -4. So this one actually is yes, that y is by itself and our slope is just 0. That's why there is no x in our equation. So this is in slope-intercept form. Number 4, y is not by itself. There's a negative there. So this is no. Y has to be totally by itself. Number 5, y is by itself, but it's just on the other side. So if we flipped this around, y equals 2x minus 8. Looks a little better, looks more similar. We have our 2 is our slope, and our 8 is our b. This is yes, it is in slope-intercept form. And number 6, again, similar to number 3, it looks like it's not because it's missing a number. But if I were to write a plus 0 here, it's not written, but that's what it means is on the end there, plus 0. -3 is our slope, and 0 is our b. So this one is yes. Okay, our next questions here say use the equation to find the slope and the y-intercept of the graph of the line. So we're just trying to find m and our y-intercept. So from our equation here, we know that m is that number right next to x. So our m is 3, our slope of 3. Our y-intercept is the number added on at the end. So our b is 4. Now if I want to write it as the slope or as the y-intercept, my y-intercept point is 0, 4. Okay, here in number 8, our slope, we've got a -4 out front of x. So our slope is -4. Now our y-intercept, our b is +0. So that makes our y-intercept 0, 0. Remember, our y-intercept is always going to be 0, b. So whatever our b value is, that's the number we plug in at the end of our point. Okay, number 9. Here we have no x, so that means our slope is 0. We have 0 times x to give us 0. It gets rid of that x. Our y-intercept we get 0, and our b here is -2. So our y-intercept is 0, -2. Then the last one here, we have our slope. We have 1/2 out front of x. So that means our slope is 1/2. And our b has a -5, so careful. Our slope-intercept form is mx plus b. So if there's not a plus there, that means that negative sign goes with our b. So it would be -0, -5. Our next example is similar to the last one, but just the opposite. So now it's giving us the slope and the y-intercept, and we want to write our equation of that line in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write our form at the top. We have y equals mx plus b, and we need to plug in m, and we need to plug in b. So for number 11, we know that y equals our m is -3. So I'm going to write -3x, and my b is 1. So I have -3x plus 1. Number 12, my m is 1/4. So I have 1/4 x plus my b is -5. So I could either write plus -5 or y equals 1/4 x minus 5. Those are the same thing. Number 13, my slope is 0. So I get y equals 0x plus my b is 3. Now 0 times x is just 0, so I get y equals 3. My last one, my slope is 1.2. So I write y equals 1.2 x, and my y-intercept is 0. So I have plus 0. And I can get rid of that 0. I get y equals 1.2 x. Our last examples here say use the graph, identify the slope and y-intercept, and then use them to write the equation. So now we're doing all parts of the equation. We have y equals mx plus b. First thing I need for number 15 is my slope. So remember, slope equals rise over run. So if I start here at this point, My rise in this case is negative 1, 2. So my slope is negative 2 over 1, 2, 3. Negative 2 over 3 is my slope. My y-intercept I have 0, comma, and then I got to figure out where does it cross that y-axis. So if I look here, this is my y-axis. My line crosses right at this point, and that is y equals 1. So I get 0, comma 1 as my y-intercept. Now I have this information, I can plug it in. I know y equals mx plus b. My m is negative 2/3 x plus b, which is 1. And that's my answer for 15. So let's look at 16. First, I want to find my slope. My slope is rise over run. Go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 4 over 1, which is just 4. My y-intercept I'm looking for where it crosses my y-axis right here. And I see my point right here. So if I count my y value at that point, I'm going down 1, 2, 3. 0, negative 3. And now I can write my line. I have y equals m, which is 4, x plus b, which is negative 3. Our last example, I'm going to start with the slope again. So I'm going to find my 2 points, going here and here. The rise, I'm going to go up 1, 2, and I'm going to run 1, 2. 2 over 2, that equals 1. So my slope in this case is just going to be 1. And then my y-intercept crosses at 1, 2, 3. So I've got 0, 3. My b is going to be 3. So when I write my equation, y equals m, which is 1, x plus b, which is 3. And that 1x there, remember in front of an x there's always that 1, so we can just write this as x plus 3. That means there's a 1 out front of my x.